Now, for the question, I want to hear from every panelist. All right. I want to know why. Why do Black women vote Democrat?
Black women are angry, revengeful, and spiteful. Mm-hmm. And I still think that they're mad about Jim Crow. They're mad about slavery. They're mad because their dad's not in their life. They're mad about all those things. And so they want revenge. So when they vote Democrat, it is a middle finger to America. It's a middle finger to white people. And I think the only way to turn it around is they have to release that anger.
Everybody, I hope and pray that you are doing well. I'm your host, John Amanchukwu. This is Disturbing the Peace, and we will disturb the peace tonight. I have a phenomenal set and group of panelists that have joined me tonight for a phenomenal conversation. Now, for the question, I want to hear from every panelist. All right. Why do Black women vote Democrat? We've already addressed the political chump topic. We've talked about Winsome Sears and Abigail Spanberger and the NAACP and endorsing Abigail. We've talked about Gavin Newsom and his support of Planned Parenthood and the likes. Why? I want to know why. Why do Black women vote Democrat?
Well, the question should be really, why do Black women continue to support and vote for Democrats when they don't support them? Mm-hmm. To a degree. And, I read somewhere, it was an article, preparing for this show, that the reason why mainly what I researched was because Black women are more likely to benefit from their policies, meaning Section 8, welfare, food stamps, healthcare issues, DEI now, reproductive rights. So yeah, they're always going to have that demographic of voters because they tend to benefit their policies.
But didn't we have Section 8 welfare and those benefits under Bush?
We did. Right?
Didn't we have that under Trump?
Absolutely.
So what's the difference? I mean, it's is the lone reason because of simply survival?
Well, if you're talking across the board, yeah, Biden was in office, Trump was in office, but who did they still vote for?
They voted for the Democrat.
They voted for the Democrat because that's where their interest lies. They're always going to vote for the Democrat person because they don't want to be cut off from their government benefits.
But they weren't cut off under Bush. They weren't cut off under Trump.
But they weren't. But that's their sole mindset to not even consider another candidate or a Republican even.
Are they short-sighted?
They're misinformed.
Misinformed or intentionally misinformed?
Intentionally. As she said, anything against the white man, I'm going to come against because they've been told in their communities, and I even heard it, we're going to take your government benefits. Joe Biden, they're going to put you back in chains. So, it's always perpetuating that slavery mindset that I'm going to depend on daddy government instead of God. Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of that.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, the main slogan that Kamala Harris had when she was running for president is, we're not going back. Like, where you going? We're not going back. I mean, there were people actually saying, we're not going back to slavery. We're not going. Like, no, I'm not. Who could do that to me at this point in history? But there is that fear that looms out there. And I think that Republicans have always had a language to want to cut, to do the tax cuts. So certainly Republicans and Democrats support subsidies and government benefits, but they've always had the language of being more fiscal and wanting to cut taxes and making smaller government. And I think over time, we all know that means that to a certain extent, we want to cut certain benefits, we want to save money and things like that. And I think that even for those of us who have gone on to do better and we don't need that anymore, we still acknowledge that that's where too many of us have come from, and that we needed it. So you might be a 6-figure woman in corporate America today, but when you were growing up, if it were not for food stamps or WIC or whatever it was, when you were a little girl, you wouldn't have been able to make it. And so they have that connection to those kinds of things. Sadly, another thing that, it breaks my heart that this is a deal breaker for Black women, but abortion is still something that in our community that we want.
We want it.
We want it. I mean, it's sad. And that's why I long to see just the regeneration and the restoration of our families. But that is something that we still believe that we need. That we need to have the right to abort babies in the event that we get pregnant by someone who doesn't want to make a lifelong commitment to us or to take care of a child. That is a real issue. That is one of the biggest differences between Abigail Spanberger and Winsome Sears.
Sure.
That's one of the biggest differences. I will also say that representation is a big issue. Belonging is a human need. Everyone wants to belong. One of the hardest times in the election cycles for me is when you see the Democratic National Convention and the Republican Convention. It night and day. One looks like a rainbow, and it looks like we are here for everybody. Frankly, one looks like that's the convention that Black people can go to, and one does not.
The optics.
Yeah, the optics of it all.
Because one, you can see, a rainbow of Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Pacific Islander, Native American, you name it, and others. But at the end of the day, the policies are deleterious towards all of those different ethnicities. On the other side, you may not see the rainbow. It's going to be predominantly white, which is your point, right? But from an optics point of view, and if you're trying to win over people, what looks more inviting is when you see the semblance of yourself in a given party in a prominent way.
Well said.
But on the other side, you may not see that, albeit the policies and the platform is more beneficial and helpful for Black people. But we oftentimes value optics.
Right.
More than true opportunities.
Right.
And that's why we are in disarray as a community.
I agree.
Yeah, I think Black women still vote Democrat because they have gotten so comfortable being out of place and out of order, and they're so full of themselves.
Go unpack that. Out of order, comfortable with that. What are you saying? Say what you're saying.
They won't shed this faux masculinity that they've picked up, and they think they're in charge.
Okay.
They have bought into the idea that the matriarchy is beneficial when it's clear that it's not. And they reject anything that looks like a man is in charge because they've been conditioned to believe this whole they bought into what I say the color purple mindset is. Every Black woman was just mistreated. I mean, look at the color purple. There wasn't a upstanding good Black man in the entire movie.
Right.
And they've bought into this and they want to be in charge because they've bought into the lie that all men have done is oppress them and mistreat them and do them wrong. So they've gotten comfortable just being out of place and out of order. And I feel like they're so full of themselves now that they reject correction and redirection. So they're going to keep voting that same way because they won't listen to anybody. They have bought into the idea that mama knows best. And that's not the way it used to be.
So no correction, and they don't. Give me that again. Correction and redirection.
Yeah, they reject it.
They reject it.
They reject correction and redirection.
So is that why 92% of Black women supported Kamala Harris, but Trump was able to receive about 28% of the Black male vote? And so it's almost like black men this past election cycle said, you know what, forget Kamala. We're going with Trump.
Yeah.
He has more to offer. We can see it. We're the patriarchs. There's a more promising future in this direction, which I actually think is a good trend.
Oh yeah.
If the black men are moving towards a more limited government viewpoint, a more accountability driven viewpoint, a more limited taxes viewpoint, a more American pride, and you can be patriotic viewpoint. That is a good trend,
right,
for the black community. I was actually inspired and hopeful when I saw that.
Right.
The men are saying, all right, y'all sisters gonna stay over here, but we're going over there. Maybe this next election cycle, the sisters will come, and we can siphon off maybe 20 or 30%, and they come join the men on the other side who kind of see that, hey, man, this is not working out.
Yeah, I think black men realize they can't afford to keep following behind the female, not emotionally, not mentally, and certainly not financially, because when a black woman can't take care of her child, the government steps in. When a black man is struggling to take care of his child, he goes to jail. And so I think they have to pay more attention to who they're voting for and the policies that they push. And they've said, you know what? We've played around for way too long. You can either come with us or you're going to get left behind. And so that's what we're seeing now, I think.
Wow. Powerful statements.
I kind of alluded to what I think is going on at the beginning. I think it's the reason behind the reasons. Black women are angry, revengeful, and spiteful. And I still think that they're mad about Jim Crow. They're mad about slavery. They're mad because their dad's not in their life. They're mad about the three strikes rule. They're mad about stop and frisk. They're mad about all those things. And so they want revenge. And there's this thing called incentive power. It was given to us by God to fight temptation. When used wrongly, you fight other people. You have anger against your brother, against your fellow humans. And I think that's what we're seeing in Black women. So when they vote Democrat, it is a middle finger to America. It's a middle finger to white people. It's
rebellion.
Yes, to their dad. And I think the only way to turn it around is to they have to release that anger. I think that's what keeps them from looking at the nation holistically and saying what's best for the nation. Because there's a Holy Church father named John Cassian, and he talks about when you have a root of bitterness, it pretty much makes you an idiot. You cannot make good decisions. You can't think clearly, and you're just fighting everybody. So I think the strife and the bitterness and the vengefulness has to be released from these women's heart. In order for us to follow our men, in order for us to not have anxiety and kill our babies, and in order for us to look at the nation and say, logically, what's the best decision here from candidate A and candidate B? And until we do that, I think the Black community is cooked.
Yeah, it's just getting rid of the angry Black woman syndrome.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it goes back to what you said earlier, logic and emotion.
Right.
Which one are you going to lead with? And there has to be a change. I see the trends changing. I'm very hopeful, especially Black Chicago.
Yes.
Flip Chicago Red. That initiative is going forward. They cannot wait to the next election cycle. So I think under Trump, Black men knew that they would be respected. Okay, Kamala Harris, when she launched her campaign, where was she sitting on the couch with trans women?
That's true.
Men. Remember that? And as
that
a
was so
masculine
weird.
man, how can you
I forgot about that.
identify with that? I don't want to be a part of that party that doesn't even recognize me.
Don't know what a woman is.
And don't know what a woman is.
Right.
And men can sniff out evil, and their job is to stamp it out. So when you see a dude that looks like John and he's got a wig, lipstick, and heels on, men are just like
completely turned off.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great arguments. As we come to the close of this live, I want to give you all an opportunity to give some closing statements. We know the issues, we know the challenges, we know the problems. What are you most hopeful about? Where is the hope? Is there any hope? And how can we offer that to the Black community, to Black women, to Black men, so that we can begin to right this ship? And then I'm going to hear from some people in the comments, and then we'll close out.
I have hope in Gen Z. Young men are going to church. They're turning back to Christ, and they're going to really traditional churches. They're stoic churches. You know, they want something real, and they need purpose, and they're finding that in God, and that gives me hope. Now, Gen Z women of all races, they're a little bit behind, but I think because the men are leading the way in a godly way, I think that's hope for our country. And so a lot of, like, I don't know how you feel about Christian nationalism. I am one, but just the idea that
I support it, trust me.
We have a whole generation, or a big chunk of an entire generation that are up and coming, and they're going to be the ones leading the country. Like, I hope I'm an old lady, like, yeah, do it, go on. Because I think if we can get the Christian values in the law, and get Christian values in the way that we vote, we're either the candidates are going to fight us, which is not a good idea, or even if they're lying, they're going to go along with it. And as long as they do their job, that's between them and God. So my hope is in Gen Z, especially the young men. And I think that they have so much information. They've been born on the internet. And so they know way more than we did. And hopefully that knowledge combined with the fear of God will turn this country around. And I'm hoping that's a big chunk of Black men as well.
Amen.
Yeah, I would say my hope is in the end we win.
Sure.
So I have that hope, but also,
Right.
like she said, in Gen Z, just seeing my children and their friends, I think there is hope, especially with the males. They want to do something different. I feel like they're looking at Generation X and saying, I don't want that. You know, their parents and grandparents, and saying this wasn't the correct way. So I do think a lot of them are waking up. Even the millennials who people counted out for so long, I think are saying, you know what, we want to do it better, and we want to do it as close to right as possible. So I'm seeing a lot of young people reject what maybe they were taught by Generation X or by the boomers, you know.
Sure.
They're rejecting that. And so I'm grateful, and I'm very hopeful that the young people will kind of just throw off these coats, these burdens that we put on them by teaching them or setting bad examples. So I am hopeful in some of the young people, and you know,
I like it.
And I just feel like, you know, for those who are trying to do the right thing, we have to do it louder, because they're very loud on the other side, and they are very unapologetic with the way that they're living and the way they embrace degeneracy. So we actually have to be just as loud, just as bold, and just as open and confident in our stance, and stop thinking that we can look down or look away and that it's just going to disappear. It's not. We have to face this stuff head on. And I will say, as a Gen Xer, you know, I can't just turn my nose up to Cardi B. I have to first be accountable and say, you know what? I embrace Lil' Kim, and Lil' Kim gave birth to the Cardi B and the Sexy Reds. And so what can I
Foxy
do?
Brown back in the day.
Yes.
Come on.
What can I do to reverse this? And so we have to speak up and speak out, and
That's good.
And, you know, take some accountability. It starts there.
Yes. I like it.
My hope is ultimately in the gospel, and just the preached word of God. And I'm thankful also for platforms like this. I'm thankful for YouTube and social media, and that we as a nation, as a society, finally have an alternative to establishment media, because for so long, only one voice was being heard in our community, and our voices are just getting the volume that they need. But I'm grateful that we've finally moved to the point that we're hearing from people beyond the Al Sharptons and Jesse Jacksons, and only people who have one point of view, but we're getting equal time. We're getting to hear from people who are warning us about the dangers of abortion, warning us about the dangers of our support and our being enmeshed with the LGBTQIA agenda and community, that we're finally hearing these things. And my prayer again is that as we speak policy, that we would also speak the word of God and really challenge just not our community, but the nation back to the Lord. The closer you get to God, you see that there is a dearth of Christianity and biblical values in the nation in general. And that is what we need to get back to.
Absolutely. I totally agree with, from a biblical, spiritual perspective, obviously, especially after Charlie Kirk's death, how churches was busting at the seams with the younger generation going back to church, not just going back to church, but getting baptized and getting saved. They're our future leaders. And just my hope for America really heightened when Trump won. He won the popular vote, the electoral vote. He blew Kamala Harris out the water.
Yes.
And the American people just said enough is enough of this wokeness and this anti-God, anti-family party. And so I continue to fight through my work with the Frederick Douglass Foundation and the community efforts, and that Gen X and baby boomers who are still here on the earth to speak out, stand up. Let your voice be your vote, as I told some ladies recently. Get involved with your local elections, run for office even if you have to. We need more Christian conservatives in office. And one of my main hopes as well is that they will continue to vote Republican, continue to vote. We need a president in the White House that's going to have conservative, limited government, less regulations, all those things that Republican Party stands for.
That's awesome. Thank you, ladies, so much for this. And there's an infiltration taking place on the right now. There are many people who are seeking to redefine what MAGA is going to mean going forward. We have some bad actors who are intentionally getting into the hearts of Gen Z as a means of turning people against Israel, as a means of normalizing anti-Semitism, racism, and the likes. You have people like Nick Fuentes, who goes online and he picks on the color of Black people's skin. He glorifies Hitler and Stalin, all of that stuff.
Wow.
But he's a major voice that people are beginning to platform and give credence to. Charlie Kirk despised it. That's why he wouldn't bring him on his platform and talk to him. And he didn't want to amplify his voice even further, because if you bring him on and talk to him and you say kind things about him, then you normalize his insanity.
That's right.
We just witnessed that Tucker Carlson did that very thing. He brought Nick Fuentes on his platform and he talked to him in a glowing way, and that's deleterious and negative towards the Republican Party. And we have made great strides with getting Black people to support the Republican Party. We will lose woefully in the midterms if we don't make it clear that stuff that happened as relates to the young Republicans text thread, where they were cracking jokes about watermelon eaters and Jews, Black people,
monkeys.
Say it again. Monkeys.
Calling people
Yeah,
monkeys.
exactly. They wrote that off as jokes, but that's not how you joke. When we're at home, we don't joke about white people or Asians and Hispanics in that manner. That's not a joke.
I do.
You do. Y'all, it's,
we don't.
y'all, and that's cool. But I
It's all love.
You should not say that as a panelist. It's almost nullifying what you just said.
But it's the thing is,
I just didn't want to be a liar. I was sitting here like,
yeah. But that's all good. I mean, there's some people who that can fall on them, and it's a genuine joke. You know what I mean? But for some people who don't have cultural awareness,
right,
the musing of the heart becomes a reality. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Have I ever cracked a joke before in the past? Yes, I have. But I'm not going to be found in a text thread amongst dozens of people saying insidious things about other races and things of that nature. That's not something that it's commonplace for me.
It's not dozens. It's only a few of us in there.
There's only a few in yours when you do it.
it's only 3.
You know what? Let me tell you this. You better hope that text thread don't ever get out, because guess what? The grace that I would probably show you, if people hear you talking about, white people in a bad way, they may not give you the same grace. You just never know that you may not get the same grace. Some may give it to you, some may not, but
I will say I was very proud of the Republican leaders locally who did take swift action and shut down the Young Republicans chapters and things in their state. But what I was disappointed about was J.D. Vance just kept writing it off as a joke. Yeah. I mean, you're the vice president, as you said, moving forward, Trump's terms ends. Sure. I mean, if you plan on, or Rubio's plan on running for the presidency, these words are going to come back and haunt you, because you had an opportunity to set a precedent on this issue, and you're married to an immigrant or
and you would
minority.
The thing is, now there's a method to the madness, and I get it. On one end, you have a text thread full of jokes. On the other end, the left just assassinated Charlie Kirk. Okay, and so what do we have here? We have a person who was assassinated in cold blood, and we have some jokes. So people are making that kind of comparison, right? As to why they're not going to give light or credence to it. Also, you have people dressing up for Halloween right now online, posting themselves in freedom shirts with blood coming out of their neck, picking on Charlie Kirk. I get that aspect of it, right? But we have worked hard to win over the Black women and the Black men. And when you see that it's just written off as just clearly just a joke, just some kids. They weren't kids. They were 28, they were 30, they were 35, and they were 40. One of the national leaders for the Young Republicans Club reached out to me and told me additional details that I can't share, that it runs deeper than what most people know.
Right.
And so if we are going to win, the topic today was why Black women vote Democrat.
Right. I mean,
right. If we're going to win our people, even if we got to act like, hey, it's not jokes, it's serious. We shouldn't do this. You may have to say that to win some people over, albeit I do think that it runs deeper than just jokes. Sometimes it's people's mentality that they think that they may be superior, or it's okay for you to joke that way because it's acceptable and I have a right to say what I want to say because of freedom of speech, and you do. But if you want to be the party that's pushing anti-CRT and anti-DEI, you also
wiping away the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah,
because we don't have racism anymore. You might want to
when these things come up.
I mean, come on now.
You might sit in this exactly.
Use your brain.
Exactly. Sit into me. Yeah. Let me help you message this so that the gains that we have
is not hard.
It's not lost, because the focus tonight was why Black women vote Democrat. Y'all with me?
Oh,
I
absolutely.
want to see the messages when we get off too.
I don't.
I want to see them. Say it again.
I don't make fun of white people, just Indians.
Just Indians.
It's everybody for me.
No,
I'm joking,
that's
I'm
a
joking.
joke. That's a joke.
I'm joking.
I know that's a joke. It better be.
Well, they're not a huge voting bloc, so you know.
You know
The words
what?
of Nzinga do not represent.
Exactly.
She's a guest.
I'm kidding.
She's a guest. All right. You know what? I should have ended this a long time ago. Time out, flag on the play. This is it. You all, thank you so much for tuning in. Valerie, Crystal, Shamika, and Zinga. I love y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank
God
you
bless
for
you. Thank
having
you for
us.
coming on. God bless you. God bless America. We are dismissed.